One, two, three, ABC. Welcome one, welcome all.
Let's dive in
I
to
feel like we're gonna
ruthless, honest
oh.
truth.
Welcome everyone to Ruthless Honest Truth. Now, today it is not me just talking to myself because today we have the guest, Emily Powell. Everyone, let's get ready. I discovered Em through TikTok, and it was one of those moments when you're like, I don't know what I need to do, but I need to know this person. I need to magnetize them into my world because this is
Stop.
cool. I would personally describe Em as a creator, a retreat facilitator, an educator, and a neurodivergent wellness guide. So today we're going to be talking about our experiences of ADHD and autism, where we are at on that journey. And I really wanted to speak about the retreat. I want a deep dive, but I would love to know how you would describe yourself and also the work that you do in this realm of the world.
I would describe myself as someone who has been on a very roller coastery journey in terms of my well-being, especially since becoming a parent. So I've been knee deep in parenting for 7 years now. And the last 4, I've been in the trenches because, as you know, I have 3 daughters, 2 of whom are twins. And when you have 3 babies at the same time, because let's face it, a 3-year-old is still a baby and they still need so much of you, but you expect them to be able to do certain things when more babyish babies come along, it's just a whirlwind. So I would now consider myself to be someone who puts their well-being first before their kids, because, you know, every time you get on a plane, they say, put your life jacket on first, put your breathing mask on first. And that's so true. If my basic needs are met, then I cannot be the intuitive, gentle, but authoritative parent that I really want to be. And now that I know that I have to do that, parenting has become, I want to say, so much easier, but it has. And it's because I'm meeting my own needs. I'm sorting myself out and going, right, you need a snack, but you need to hang fire because I can't make you a snack while I'm desperate for a wee. That isn't a very concise description, I know, but life isn't concise. Life isn't a niche. Life isn't a label. Life isn't a box. We are so multifaceted, multidimensional. And if we try to fit ourselves into a box, we're just going to, especially being demand avoidant creatures that we are, autonomous, that drive for autonomy makes me go, I don't want to be in this box. Like, let me sprawl all of my limbs out of it. Even my Instagram handle suggested that I was just a well-being person. I only talk about well-being or being autistic. But actually, there's so many things that make me who I am. And I was so scared of like putting my name out onto
Recent
the
shift.
internet. Yeah. I think one of the big things is that I was scared of owning like who I was as just Emily, because a lot of people in my real life don't know that I'm on the internet, but now they will be able to discover me, and that's also okay because I'm not a child anymore. I'm a grown adult.
Wait, so people didn't know that you've been a content creator?
I
That's
put everybody
fascinating.
on block at the start.
Genius.
Everybody.
I tell so many people to do this.
Yeah. And I needed to do that at the time so that I could make the content that I wanted to make. But also with that came this fear that, oh my gosh, someone's going to find me. And then my friends did start finding me, or I had to overcome this barrier of inviting my friends into this world and saying, look, I'm doing this thing. I didn't want to be perceived to fail at the start. I wanted to build it up enough to consider myself successful, whatever that means, but welcome into my world. If I'm not talking about this with you, then I'm not talking about anything with you, because this is the crux of what's going on in my life: making
Mm.
content, making connections, doing retreats, sharing these things.
What I'd love to know is how did you find your experience of posting online, kind of in that zeitgeist crux moment of so many of us realizing, oh my gosh, it's ADHD and autism? Like, how did you personally find that journey of working that out while welcoming into that experience with you via the videos?
I found it very affirming and validating, and I've always been someone who has sought validation from others. And now that I'm kind of moving away from that, my videos have started to decline. I know that my content has been helpful for some people, because I get the odd message and the odd comment saying your videos have really helped me. And I'm like, wow, me? Like, really? I did that? Because you don't know the impact that you're having when you're on this side of the camera. You
Yeah.
only see the impact of the people that you are consuming. You know, the people whose content I consume if I only have a parasocial relationship, they will never know the impact that that content has on me unless I get to meet them in person and go, wow, you really inspired me with this video or this thought or this set phrase that you said. And there are so many people I could reach out to and go, this is really inspiring. Please don't give up on this. And it's like, you never know who's watching. You never know if I always say the reason I started posting is because I had a story to tell, and I have even more of a story to tell now, 2 years on. But if one 3-second clip of one video that I've made in the last 2 years helps somebody who's having a hard time, whether that's a woman or an autistic woman or an autistic parent or a parent with 5 kids, like anyone, then that is enough for me to go, right, I've done all this work for free. Because essentially you are doing it for free. Like,
I always forget that
method
part.
doesn't pay us. But that also leads me on to the reason why I've decided not to carry on posting videos on Instagram is because when your brain and your word are your art, why would you give that away for free? We don't expect artists who paint to give their work away for free. And Meta isn't paying us. So I would like to continue sharing my art, which is my word, over on YouTube, where I know I will get at least a little bit of compensation once I build up those dedicated watch hours or whatever they're called.
So when did you decide to do this? Because it's quite a radical move in this day and age to be like, right, Instagram, live, laugh, love, but I'm going now. Like, thank you for having me. It's been real.
I think over the last few weeks, I've been having definitely reached a crisis point in terms of stress, burnout, and my mental health. And because I was struggling, I put content creation aside so I could focus on the more important things like holding down my job and making sure my family had everything they needed.
Yeah.
So, and you know that when your mental health is in decline, the first thing to fall away is the unnecessary things like your hobbies. So content creation for me. But then I thought, wow, I'm getting so much time back. I'm not doom scrolling. And I posted a video to say, this is what's been going on with me. I have been in a crisis. I have experienced the amazing support of community care, but also my content creation isn't going to be here anymore. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to yap because that's what I'm good at. And I'm going to put it on YouTube where hopefully the right people will see it. It feels like I'm not just constantly chasing those vanity metrics anymore, because that, you don't realize it, but that is detrimental when your whole brand, your whole personality and your online persona is dictated by like these numbers. That's really hard.
And it's just not a normal thing. Like, I know in school, sure, you got graded and you got percentages, but it does feel like there is such a massive angle of working on the internet being number based, which just isn't natural for human beings. Like, who sits with friends and is like, oh, I want to get 700 likes? Like, our goals, our aspirations are so much bigger than the likes and the shares. And I think I always feel like we're in like a weird bind at the moment of working online is relatively new in the grand scheme of things. And yes, it does facilitate so many opportunities, but you are jumping through such unnatural hoops to do so. I remember I saw my friend recently, you know, those friends who are like your older friends, you don't really see them too often, but when you do, you're like, oh, I know why we keep each other around. And she was reflecting back to me and she was like, because I was talking about social media. And she was like, thing is, Jace, you're a hypnotherapist. Like, I don't see my therapist because she makes good content. And I was like, no, you're so right. Like, it shouldn't have been as a massive moment, but it really was of like, oh yeah, that's not even our jobs. Like, this sure is the marketing aspect of this, but it's too easy for it to become the thing, as opposed to most of us, when we start creating and putting things out, like you said, you've got the story and the message that you want to be known, and that's the driver. But I would love to know, when you began, what was that why, that reason for like, right, I know that I want to do this. This is what I want people to connect to or be able to understand, see, experience.
My why was that I was having a hard time and I was looking for answers. I thought that I wanted to be a content creator, but I also wanted to share the impact that hypnotherapy had or was having on me at the time. So remember, the first video that I posted was about happiness and how I'd thought in the years prior that I wasn't the kind of person who could be happy or experience happiness or was deserving of happiness. And then as soon as I started going to hypnotherapy, I had very specific reasons, phobias I wanted to deal with. And I thought that hypnotherapy was probably the last resort, because I tried the medication, I tried the CBT, I tried problem sharing with my friends and family. And I was like, well, this is the last resort. And then as soon as I did that, it was like my life became like blue sky days every day, because of the impact that hypnotherapy was having on me. And I've done, as you know, I've done in person, I've done online with you, we've done group hypnotherapy, and they're all impactful in different ways. But for me, like you say, I didn't find my hypnotherapist on social media. I found my hypnotherapist in a desperate Google search at 11 p.m. one night in a flood of tears, because I was like, I just need someone to help me. And luckily, there was somebody 5 minutes up the road, queer, neurodivergent, said, yeah, we can sort this out. It's not a problem. And instantly, that was half of the baggage gone. Just going like, oh, somebody's going to help me. And then I had 2 sessions. Phobia was gone, but I just kept going back, because again, I thought at the time that I needed that constant, like, someone to talk to, blue sky, like therapists. Therapy in all ways is kind of like what we should be getting from community, but actually everybody is busy all the time. And so the people that should be there for you in community are not able to be that listening ear or that person with the wisdom. You know, like I always say, like, age is not akin to wisdom. I take so much wisdom from you, even though we're not the same age. But I also take wisdom from people who are 2 years older than me, with parents, with children who are twice my children's age, because their age doesn't dictate their wisdom, their lived experience dictates their wisdom. And I'll tell a funny story, right? When we were going to have our first daughter, my wife was pregnant, I didn't want either of our parents to be there at the birth, because I thought, like, we're bringing life into the world, it's going to be this romantic thing. Like, if you've ever been in a birthing suite, it's not romantic at all. It's frightening, and it's gory, and it's traumatizing, and it's chaotic, and it's over medicalized, but that's a story for another day. But my mother-in-law did end up being there, and I said to my own mum this just last week, having her there as someone who understands probably how her daughter is going to give birth, because she's probably likely to do it in a similar way to how her mum gave birth. Having that person there with the age and the wisdom, and there's someone to look at and go, is this normal? Is this right? Is this what's supposed to be happening in this scenario? And go, yeah, this is pretty on track. This is all, was so reassuring. And just having that voice of wisdom and that like calm presence was enabled me to calm myself down a little bit.
So I know everyone says this, but it really is one of those situations, as someone who hasn't given birth, that you're like, I cannot even imagine the beginning, the middle, or the end.
Yeah. And then people turned around to me after our daughter was born. I'm like, oh, you're going to go next? I'm like, what? No, I would never.
Next.
Most people who have seen someone give birth probably wouldn't sign up for that, isn't it? Because most women who get pregnant for the first time, they probably actually haven't seen anyone give birth, which is probably for the best.
I always find it interesting when like birthing videos on Instagram do not get censored. Like, you can watch a water birth on Instagram and it's wild.
It is wild. My wife follows all those accounts. I'm like, what are you watching now?
Some people watch Red Bull run-throughs, other people are watching live water births. There is something for everything online. What I'd also like to know is, how old were your children when you had that ADHD autism realization, and what was the impact for you? Like you were saying at the beginning, now allowing yourself to prioritize yourself. What was the impact of the ADHD and autism realization, both on yourself, but within the whole family unit?
So I think it was around April, May 2022 that I had the autism realization. That came first. The initial impact was fear, and like I had to do something about it. Like I had to get an assessment, make sure I had a diagnosis on paper so I could access support. And then I realized that actually autistic people, there isn't much support, and there isn't a way to kind of therapize the autism away. Not that I wanted to. There are a lot of things about being autistic that I really like, like the pattern recognition, really good. The attention to detail, really good. Being able to articulate all the details of something to somebody that they might need, about project at work or about a family situation or whatever. So the impact on me was relief initially. It's like, oh, okay, so I'm not a shit mum, I'm actually autistic. And that has an impact on the way that I parent. So once I understood that, because I remember when the babies were first born, there was one night where we were all in the bedroom, all four of us together, and our eldest daughter was asleep, and they would not stop crying, both of them at the same time. And I was really, obviously now I know that I was really, really burnt out from the tiredness and stress of having two newborns. I just put my fingers in my ears and rocked. And then I cried because I was putting my fingers in my ears and rocking and not dealing with my babies that needed me. It's frightening when you say something like this that you know is going to be put on the internet, because someone is going to turn around and go, you're not a good fit for motherhood. Somebody should intervene. But actually, I'm a very good parent. And I know that I don't have to say that.
Yeah.
I don't need other people to believe that I'm a good parent. I know that I'm a good parent. And I know that if I'm not doing well at parenting for a day or a week, that there are other people, like their other parent or like grandparents or, you know, school and nursery providers as a last resort, that I can offload that care to, so I can take care of myself, which is exactly what I had to do 2 weeks ago. I had to tap out and say, you're going to school early, you're going to nursery early, your grandmother's coming over, and your mum's coming home to take care of me, because I cannot take care of myself right now. So I really had to, like, everyone bangs on about the village, but the village doesn't really exist unless you invest in it. And one of my friends said to me the other day, she was reading a book and she said, if you want a village, you have to be a villager. And I was like, well, yeah, you know. I had to reach out to so many other parents from the school run and say, can you pick my child up and walk them up to me? I can do you a favor in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, just give me some time here.
Just give me some time. Like, could you help me out? Keep it in the bank. Ask me in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whenever you need it. I'll be good with it. And actually reaching out to people, and like even like you and other people in the inner circle, saying, I need help with this. And once people know that, they can either go, I haven't got capacity, I'm sorry, or they can go, I can help you right now. And that's what everybody did.
And I feel like it's such a powerful gift to give to your children, to your family. I'm modeling to you all that we're asking for help and we are delegating, we're being direct, and like, you can do this. You're welcome. You're not in 10 years going to have to be looking up how to ask for what you need, because I, your mum, have shown you. And probably all the other parents, again, you're showing them. Do you know what? I'm really glad that I now, know that I can turn to Em because she's turned to me. And I know that this is an option. I think there's such a conversation around this of how, like you say, how important it is that mothers are properly supported. And it's not happening enough at all. So I think it's fucking brilliant that you're there going, okay, I'm going to lead the change. Like you're an Animal Crossing. I'm a villager now. Okay. Get on board.
That's so true. Like, I've had to really rally the village. One huge part of that is because I'm like the only gay in the village, but I'm not. There's another gay, and I've had to get the other gays on board into my village to say, like, it's okay, our kids can be friends, and it's really important. I think this all the time, like, I am raising queer kids in a queer family. They're not old enough to know their own sexuality or gender identity yet, but by proxy, being raised by queers, they are queer. Like, their whole lifestyle is queer. And I know, like, the word is problematic for some, and I want my kids to know that they can proudly be like, yeah, I've got two mums, you know, and actually understand that that does make them different, but that their difference is a really good and powerful thing. So yeah, connecting with other mums, especially queer mums. Like, this is very unlike me, but I was in the gym the other day in the cafe, sat working, and I heard this other lady on the phone to her child's nursery saying, oh, I'm one of Teddy's mums. And I was like, wait, what? So I went over to her and I was like, I was like, another gay in the village? Couldn't help overhearing you said you were one of two mums. And she was like, yeah. And I said, me too. I've got 3 daughters. How about you? And then we got chatting. So I think that there's always the potential to get a vibe. As long as you get a vibe and it's not a weird vibe, someone's got to make the first move,
And it
because
is always going to
otherwise
be us.
it's always going to be us.
We will do it. Do you ever have that when you're walking down the street and you see someone? I have this, not all the time, but it happened the other day. I was walking, like, we've got this area in town called the Pantiles, and there's never anyone my age out and about. And I saw this girl and I was like, I feel like we used to know each other. But do you ever get that feeling of like, I must talk to them? And I'm like, and if
Yeah.
I don't talk to them, it's on me. So I didn't talk to her that day because I just wasn't sure where I knew her from. But it will be like such a strong feeling of like, go there, approach. Every time
Yeah.
I do, it's a win most of the time, 98% of the time.
I get this a lot. And then I get told that I'm acting out of character if I do that. So
Really?
only by my wife, who's concerned about, me not burning out again. But I do feel compelled to
It's
talk to people
true.
sometimes.
Because, like you say, on good days, reaching out, making new corrections is so stunning. But I find on low to no capacity days, then I'm like, oh no, people are going to think I'm so inconsistent because I was on the ball yesterday, everything to say, everything to share. And then today I have nothing.
Yeah, but don't you feel like that is cyclical?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to talk to anyone when I'm bleeding or about to bleed.
Yeah, please
But
don't.
but but the other 3 weeks, as long as I'm balanced, thank God for ashwagandha, that's what I say. As long as I am balanced, then I can take my capacity and I can pretty much, it can be on an even keel. Then I can make connections, or just be me.
Mm. Can we explore that, like how your experience of your health and well-being with that cyclical awareness? Like what unlocks were there? What difference has that made in terms of being like, okay, a menstrual cycle is here, it's happening, and I can support myself through these different seasons that we're moving through?
Well, my sister actually, after my little crisis a few weeks ago, messaged me and said, I've been watching maths. There's this girl on there, this woman on there with PMDD.
The PMDD girl.
She reminded me of you. And I'm like, okay, but like, I feel like my whole life has been PMDD for the last 6 years, 7 years. And it's not that it's like, is it PMDD, or is it just I'm not addressing my own needs and I'm taking the burden of too much stuff? So that's not to deny that PMD symptoms do exist. But again, we've had to put a box around it and call these symptoms PMDD, when
Yeah.
actually it's the symptoms of capitalism, being burnt out, unmet needs, diet's all wrong, hormones are off. If I had just, now I know that I have to eat and exercise and sleep. Like, I just learned yesterday that when you're in your luteal phase, you need to onboard like 200 to 300 calories more per day, and that
Yeah.
women burn fat at rest. Sorry, what? That just blows diet culture completely out of the water.
Yes. I always find, because I think I went so deep into the realm of menstruality. Some of my friends were talking about this because someone I'd met recently was like, oh my God, I've just started learning about menstrual cycles. Like, no one's talking about this. And I had such a funny moment of like, oh no, we were, but like 3 years ago. But because we're all so chronically online, well, I know everything about that now. So I just presume everyone else knows everything about that now. But
Mm.
really, that menstruality conversation still hasn't had its time to shine and be like, guys, I know we've all had, the majority of us have had horrible experiences in our cycles. Let's not suppress that anymore. Let's really validate what everyone's moving through. And like you say, love that we've got a label for context and understanding, but that's step one.
Mm.
Acknowledgement is step one.
Yeah.
The validation is step 1 to 4. And then we get this huge opportunity for, right, what does this mean? Okay, the week before my period is known as the luteal phase. Okay, what does that mean for me? And I think, like you say, with diet culture, I think so much of it does loop back to, and I think about this all the time, like how we do need to be our own health professionals because no one else is in your body. No one else can sit with us every day. And instead of it being that annoying thing of how it used to be of like, oh, that's that's the black sheep of the family. They need to go off, isolate, and fix themselves. It's like, well, we all have acute areas of pain. We get to be the professionals. We can then share all of the vast insights, and then someone else can come in and be like, okay, cool. Because, oh yeah, I tangented a bit there. But so much of what's sold to us is profit led. And if people's problems aren't profitable enough, no one's going to talk about it. Like premenstrual dysphoric, allegedly disorder. It's a valid reaction and a response.
Yeah.
It's not very profitable. The nature of it is that you feel great for 2 weeks of the month, ideally, maybe even less. And then when you do feel really bad, you're too overwhelmed to do anything about it. And then when you feel good, we want to forget the bad times. So for someone
Mm.
who's sat on a business perspective is going to be like, it's too much of a volatile market, I'm going to leave it, which leaves millions of us being like, okay, but I still really need some support.
Yeah.
When
But
I'm
then you think
ready.
about like your first interaction with periods is under probably in either in school or from your own parents, and there's immediately it's like shame. We don't tell
So
dad when
much
we're
shame.
bleeding. We hide the tampons in the bathroom. We only, we hide the tampons in our pocket at school. We go into the bathroom. We're discreet. Fuck being discreet. 50% of the population are bleeding every month for 7 days.
We
Why
are
are we
going
being
through
discreet about it? And then we go into biology lessons and are probably male or probably menopausal biology teacher teaches us that we release an egg, and if we fertilize it, we make a baby, and if we don't fertilize it, it comes out as blood. We don't need to worry about it. It's nothing to worry about. We just brush it under the rug. We won't talk about it ever again. If you need some tampons, they're hidden in the cupboard. And then all the boys
Yes.
are like, periods are icky because people are not confident to talk about it. And all the girls are like, periods are icky and shameful. So I can't talk about it. So I'm just going to continue to have a hard time with it. And then you think about diet, and the fact that kids are eating cereal in the morning, which is spiking their blood sugars, which means they're not getting the nutrients they need. So when they are menstruating and they are starting that menstrual journey, there's no one who knows to hold their hand and go, you need to eat steak, you need to eat some chocolate, you need to eat some broccoli, you need fiber. And the diet that we're eating, this whole eating 3 meals a day thing, that's an industrial revolution thing, because like we needed to go down the mines or into the factories and work, so we needed to have meals that worked around the 9 to 5, when actually what we know now is that women should be eating little and often, and not fasting for more than 2 or 3 hours in the day, because that's the best way to maintain your energy, because you need that energy throughout the day, and then you need something that's going to sustain you overnight. It's a whole new world.
We are so glad we're here. And I think
Yeah.
there's so many pieces of the puzzle. I'm glad that we're talking about it, because sometimes I know for me, before I came into ADHD and autism world, I was in like well-being, spiritual, menstruality, truth seeker world, which was like question everything, do your own research, go and see the professionals, do consultations, but it's on you. It's on you. Like it's going to be okay, but it's on you. And I know we all want more research into things, but like until that happens, it's on you. So like for me, when I was experiencing PMDD, I had this moment of, oh, there's no research. And I know how long a clinical trial takes. I can't wait 30 years for this. As much as I'm not really interested in this, like I did not used to be a wellness person at all. I did not care. I thought it was so uncool. I was like, who do people think they are being healthy? Ew. But then was like forced into it, and everything benefited as a result. But I kind of got used to that paradigm of it's on you and isn't that great? And then you can find community of other people who are like, I used to be bedbound on ventilators and now I'm having a great time. Inspiring. Like, I love this. That's so cool. Like, good for you. And then I think it's felt like a clash moving back into DSM, diagnostic and statistical psychiatry world, where the mind and body are disconnected and it's all a great mystery. Because it just feels like the two worlds haven't found a way to not be scared of each other anymore. Like I feel like so many people in wellness are like, well, I don't really want to buy into labels anymore. I'd rather sort this out than identify with something, because I know what identifying as does at
Mm.
that mind body level. But then people who are super deep into ADHD and autism world, because you're dysregulated and because there's a lifetime, so many reasons, but like you have never been validated, but now you've got a label that does validate. I get why it feels threatening that people are, okay, I know you're having a horrible time, but if you did eat some protein and if you did go outside and if you did not live like a zoo animal inside on a screen miserable, things would be better. But it's like we need to welcome people in a way that feels good for them into this realm of looking after yourself. Because otherwise it
There
just feels like
is,
people keeping each other in pain. I can't get on board with it.
yeah, well, as someone who works in the clinical mental health industry, there is a lot of discomfort with the holistic well-being side of things. And I know from
So
that end,
much.
there is resentment to the other side. Whereas if we had a bit of balance where we could take the research and the names for things,
Mm.
and then we took a more natural approach, that would be the meeting in the middle. That would be the balance that would really heal a lot of people.
So many.
But I think a lot of people just don't know that this exists and that there is truth to it. And I don't think that a lot of people know that this exists and there is also truth to that.
Yeah.
Like there is a nature versus nurture debate for a reason. There is a science versus, what's the opposite of science?
Yeah, that is a podcast and a half. Who decided that the Western centralized system is the only version?
Yeah, but it's like, as we know, the Western systems are a way into buying health, paying for health, or having health marketed to us,
Mm.
and that feels crass. And we know that from what we do in the crux of our day to day. Marketing health to people feels uncomfortable.
So uncomfortable.
Mm.
But with that, what we would like to discuss, not in a marketing way, it's an invitation. Em has gone and done the most brilliant act I could possibly think of creating an autism specific dedicated retreat. So, Em, please, would you like to tell us more about where this idea came from? It's the second one that has been
Mm-hmm.
hosted. Last year was the first one. I got to be a guest, a hypnotherapist there. But please tell us everything that you'd love to about this experience because I'm really excited for this.
So I've always thought that I'm not a people person, but I've realized I am a people person, but I need to be around the right people. And
Real.
actually created the retreat last year because I was like, I think that the things you create are what you need for yourself. So I probably created that retreat because I needed an escape from my home, my parenting responsibilities, and work and things like that. And I really enjoy the organization of hosting events. I love connecting with other people and going, do you want to offer this? And let's make it mutually beneficial. And working with other people to create things. And last year's one was the first pancake. You know, the first pancake always goes wrong, and then the second one's much better. So last year's one was really brilliant. I had really great feedback from it. And there are mistakes, you know, you do a test and learn. And any mistakes I'm hoping to iron out in the next one. So this one is specifically for autistic and ADHD women and queer people. So it's an inclusive space for autistic and queer people. It feels like the right thing to be doing. It feels like the thing that people need. And the reason it feels like that is because it's what I needed. So this year's one is happening in June, and I'm excited that it's in the summer because the weather was fine on the last one, but it was in April, and I want to be outside more because we know that the impact of being outside is always going to be positive. I'm excited for it, and I think that this might be the last one I do on for autistic and ADHD people specifically,
Oh, tell
because
me
I
more.
think any future retreats that I do should be for mums, parents,
Mm.
because as I not move away from and deny my labels, but as I outgrow talking about autism and ADHD, I can't outgrow talking about parenting because I'm very much in the thick of it, and I've denied that motherhood label for so long, but I feel comfortable in my role as a mother and the fact that motherhood doesn't have to look a certain way. Like most mums don't have a stupid buzz cut. Most mums are parenting alongside a cisgender man, and that isn't me, but that's okay. That's that my strand of motherhood is unique to me, and I'm going to be mothering for the rest of my days if my children let me. So it feels like that is the most important thing. And if autistic and ADHD parents end up coming on the retreat as well, I'm gonna be like, oh my gosh, two things in common.
I've definitely found that. Like, I'm really glad that the ADHD and autism deep dive is happening, because the most positive insights I've found is that permission slip to really deeply, utterly tend to one another. Because I think so much of like the Western centralized care industry was based along professionalism. So when I started being a hypnotherapist, I was like, this is not you in a beige room with a beige person just going, how does that make you feel? Because they've got a huge caseload. They're working in that system where you can't bring yourself, you can't share anything. Whereas us as human beings, we love sharing stories. We love those point of connection. Obviously, you're not going to go to therapy session and be like, why is my therapist just talking about them? But just allowing ourselves in. And then in terms of accessibility, instead of everyone holding each other to that expectation of you're going to sit and you're not going to fidget and you're going to be silent. And that especially in England, there's so much non-verbal communication, but I don't think it works for anyone. Like this passive aggression that generations before us loved, still love. Whereas for us, we're like, why don't you just be direct? Let's communicate with one another and let's tell each other what we need. Everybody benefits from that understanding and of allowing more of our humanness back in. And I feel like that really is what the ADHD and autism movement is evolving into, is like letting the human side of the human experience back in. And you're still going
Yeah.
to be professional, you're still going to be successful, you can still lead a life that's purposeful and impactful, should you wish to do that, while being more of a person, if that
Mm.
makes sense.
Yeah, because what we don't want to get into is neurodivergent versus neurotypical, or queer versus not queer, autistic versus holistic. We don't want those divisions. You know, people need to understand that just because someone is autistic and another person beside them is autistic, it doesn't mean that they have the same experience. In the
Mm.
same way that an holistic person hanging out with an autistic person are not going to have opposing experiences. It's not, both experiences, I never remember how to say this right, are not mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
They both coexist and there's crossover. I don't know if that's relevant to the point you just
No,
made,
I
but
think it is. And I think it's interesting because I think when I know I'm so openly, very chronically online, but I think when so many of us started making content specifically centered around ADHD and autism, it was that sharing piece, that natural drive for justice, our perceived version of justice that we have of like, just in case you don't know, this could be the case. Like, I need you to know. And I think so many people, I know that I did, I was like, oh, I can just make friends with just autistic people and we'll automatically get along. But then I, especially in Brighton, would go to a lot of like autism specific spaces. And it'd be like, I love that we've got a low lighting. I love that there's fidget toys on the table. I have nothing in common with anyone else here. So it's that weird clash. But I don't think there's ever really been a time before where, unless it's a support group, like a diabetic support group, for example, that there's that expectation of like, right, let's all separate further. And I do think that's a really interesting point that you made, that there's so much division in the modern world of like, right, we need the neurotypicals. It's like, who? At this point, who?
yeah, exactly. We're all
Neurotypical,
traumatized.
neurotypical person, like, do we know at this point? We are at a really interesting point of human beings getting to know one another. And someone raised a really interesting point to me of so many people pile on to not liking social media, but human beings designed and created social media. It is a human construct. But I think prior to that level of the internet in your phone, you can open Reddit, you can open Twitter, and you can just have an influx of humans being humans, like your blue lit, low dopamine, just like, wow, this is how I feel. Until that, all of our media and connection points were people that you knew in real life, people at your job, TV and movies. And so much of that is way more a performance of a person. Whereas after a while of posting on the internet, you are going to start getting a bit looser and being like, this is what I actually feel.
Yeah.
Because so many of, well, barely any of us have those self-soothing techniques, and people, so many people don't know how to co-regulate, and it feels like it is getting worse. My friend yesterday goes, just feels like the whole world is dysregulated at this point. Like,
Yeah,
what's
we all
going
just need a group hug, but then people think we're weirdos. Like
take
I
us
would
back to the
feel,
60s
yeah,
or
I'd
not.
feel so
Sorry.
much better at my job if someone just gave me a hug. In fact, I've just started doing that now. Like, I'm going to hug my colleagues because I know they probably need it. They've been on the train for an hour. They're probably massively dysregulated. But again, because we're working online, we're working remotely, you don't see anyone. Like in my last job, I didn't see my manager from the here down. So I couldn't understand the full context of her because I'd never seen her entire body. I'd only ever seen like the head, like from Art Attack. I'm the head.
Oh yeah, I always freak
No,
me out,
that
that
might,
head.
yeah, that was freaky. But, we're not just a head and a shoulders on a screen. We're like a whole life, a whole backstory. Like out there, my washing basket is full of dark satin lights, and there's a clean basket on the floor, and there's a bag to go to the charity shop. No, it's not to the charity shop, it's to go in the loft of my eldest daughter's clothes, which might fit the twins when they're older. That's my backstory, and well, 1% of my backstory. But you don't see that. You only see this like pink wall and this.
Yeah, I have so much stuff down there. I had to move it before we started. So how did you find going from building an audience online? How did you then find, right, okay, now I'm gathering them in real life, like I'm bringing you together, human beings, arms and legs, everything, like come along.
Well, my cousin offers to help me because I put the post on LinkedIn and she saw it and she's like, I'll come on the retreat. I was like, well, yeah, come on it, but also can you help me? Because I'm going to be so scared.
That's
So
a pan.
we're sat in that living room, right, on those chairs at 2:45 waiting for people to turn up. And I went, why the hell have I done this? Like, I can't cope with this level of anxiety. She's like, but it's fine. They're just people. I'm like, yeah, they're right. They are just people. People are scary. People aren't scary when you understand how to connect with them. So like, that's what we focus on doing. And there are, there's out of those eight strangers that came on the retreat, I've kept in touch with most of them. Some of the group have fallen away and they're doing other things, and that's great. And some keep in touch every now and again, and some keep in touch daily, and that is amazing because not everyone is for everyone. I'm not
Yes.
for everyone. Everyone is not for me. And the people that are for you will stick around, and the people that aren't will go off and do their own little thing. And that's absolutely perfect. That's the way it should be, you know?
So how did you design the setup of the retreat to facilitate that connection?
I think I just used the bounds of the space. So like that snug living room at the front where we did the group hypnotherapy felt really warm and like it should be for a group hypnotherapy. But the room at the back that was the benches in
Yes.
the
Which
glass
we
bit at the back.
moved from. We originally
Yeah,
set up there, didn't we? And we're like,
yeah, because it
no.
felt too exposed and too open, I think.
Yeah.
But the first couple of hours of the retreat, everybody sat in that back area in benches that went around, and we just talked. And I remember thinking, I'm not involved in any of these conversations, and I feel awkward that I'm not involved, but I'm actually just enjoying listening. But I don't want anyone to feel like they've
Real.
got to invite me in. And then one other person was like, oh, I've had enough of this conversation now. I'm going to go and sit at the table. And I think she got her like drawing book out, and she says like, nobody came over to me and was like, oh, are you okay? She
Oh
was
yeah.
just able to like unmask and let herself go slightly more removed. She's like, I could still hear the conversation, I could still chip in if I wanted to, but I wasn't like exhausting myself or keeping up appearances, keeping up the conversation when I knew I was done. And that's really beautiful. And I didn't do anything to facilitate that. I just existed. I think I went off and potted in the kitchen and like sorted out some cake and just let people just crack on. Because also there's this, when you're the host of something, there's this, you feel like there's this weird divide, and I didn't want there to be a divide. I wanted to just be on the retreat with everybody, not like the host of it.
Yeah, you're like, I want to come.
Yeah, I don't want it to be like a teacher versus pupil thing. So for the next retreat, I'm going to make sure that I actually say to people, I'm not the chef of the retreat. Like, I'm just ordering in the food, and everyone can we can cook together. We can make it more like, I hate it when businesses say like, oh, we're like a family, but like on the retreat, we're living as a family because we're all living in the same house. So if we act as a family, like if I say I'm going to cook a chicken for dinner, someone might say, oh, well, I can do the mash. And someone might be like, oh, I make a really good salad. Great. Let's do it
Get
together. Let's make it
involved.
wholesome. It's Christmas in June, you know?
Yeah, I had this. I went on a retreat maybe in 2021. And then 2 years later, one of the girls who had like a bigger living space was like, you're all welcome to come round. So it was like that very, very like female centric space. I think we hadn't seen each other for 2 years. Everyone piles in, and there was like 10. It was like a big number. There was like 10 of us. At no point did anyone have to ask or delegate. And we were doing the 3 meals a day. Everyone was hanging out. Like, I think we left to obviously go and get water from a spring. We were in Glastonbury. We were like, we're going to the White Spring to gather water. But at no point did anyone have to direct or delegate or ask at all. And like you say, people were like, I'm going to do a food today. I admittedly was like, guys, I cannot cook, but I am a professional cleaner. So I will be doing I will lay up, but you do not want me to cook you for you. It will just be burgers. But it was astounding to have the space to gather in. People were taking themselves off for baths for a couple of hours. People were doing their morning practice. So this is so us. It's always a conversation like, we need a commune.
That's what it comes back to. Grow your own yogurt, knit your own Birkenstocks. I do. I want a commune, or I at least want to be able to grow my own bloody berries, because my kids, like, all of my disposable income goes on berries and fruit. And other moms will say the same, oh my God, keeping these kids in berries, so expensive. When you take the demands away from a space and go, there's a rough guideline for what we're going to do in these 48 hours. So that's what I want to do with this year's retreat. These are the rough guidelines for when the workshops are going to be and when the meal's going to be. But if that doesn't work for you, the fridge is full. There's a shop down the road should we run out of anything. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah. Can you tell us more about the location? Where are we headed?
Okay. The location. Are you doing this because you don't know where it is?
It's in Devon.
It's in the middle of Devon, between Barnstable and Tiverton.
Ooh.
So it's a collection of cottages.
Wait, so I don't know this bit. It's in multiple cottages, and then there's like a centralized space. This is
so there's like the main cottage, and then there's two smaller cottages. I think it's used for weddings and things.
And this is a wedding of minds and bodies and beings.
A permanent union. And it's got like hot tubs and a sauna and a games room and a pizza oven.
What?
So I intend to be cooking outside the first night at least, and then eating the second night outside as well.
I'm so excited.
I have to go back to my life responsibilities.
Needs to go and be a human being. Okay,
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you feel like you would like to be seen, heard, or understood by whoever it may be that is listening to this podcast?
I think one of the main things, two main points I'd like to make is, one, everybody will understand you if you say what you need and you ask for help. And that's what I've learned over the last few weeks. People, it's not your responsibility to care about other people's capacity. If you ask them for help, they have the right to say no if they don't have the capacity to help you, but they can't help you if they don't know. So tell people what's going on, the people that you care about and the people that you know love you. Second is, I've been so rigid about parenting, about food, about work, that everything has to fit into the school day hours, or that the meals have to be at set times. And I do believe that routine for families and children and families' nervous systems are a good thing. But as you say, you give a rough guideline of this is when the meals are going to be and this is when the bedtime's going to be, and then you are allowed to exist within those. Like, they're not hard boundaries, they're movable boundaries. So what if dinner doesn't get put on the table at 6 o'clock? So what if your kid doesn't have a bath every night? So what if you can't do the school run every day and you miss one and you have to delegate one because you've got a migraine? So what? Your kid's going to appreciate you putting a boundary in and saying, I need to take care of myself right now. Obviously, this is very parent-centered, because that is what my life is at the moment. Take the boundaries that society has given you with a grain of salt, and you're allowed to reach out outside of those boundaries. Even when it comes to work, my job is technically 9 to 5, but last night I spent an hour outside of those boundaries so that I could do life in between and take my kids to swimming. And the day before, again, I had to pick my kid up. So I did my work in the evening, and that's okay. I'm not going to get fired because I'm allowed to. I'm a human with human experiences, and I will make up the time, you know?
I love this. Thank you, Em. All right, everyone listening. So the retreat is in Devon from the 20th to the 22nd of June. We're going to put the link
Mhm.
to book. There is, according to your Stan store, one space left.
Okay, so this is my plan, right? There are 2 spaces left.
Two.
The next person that books will get a gift worth £50 that they get to decide. So they can reach out to me and say, I would like a voucher for this, or I'm going to give them a second option. And they will have to contact me to find out what their second option is. Then the last space will be dictated by what the next booker does.
Okay, interesting. A game.
It's gamified.
A
Yeah.
gamified format. This is genius. Perfect. So we would love to see you there. Honestly, the last retreat that I attended that M created, I'm still holding in my heart. It was a glorious experience. And I know sometimes I'm like, oh, but I've never done that before. That sounds really new. I'm not telling you what to do, but trust us. Em knows what she is doing. So I'm going to stick the link to that in the show notes. You can find Em on
Instagram.
tell
Put my
us your
handle in there. It's
okay,
Emily
perfect.
Joan Powell now.
Beautiful. And then get onto that YouTube because Em knows what's up and knows what they're doing. So enjoy. Beautiful. All right, Em, thank you for being here today. Thanks for being
Thanks for having me.
honest and truthful with me. And I'll speak to you soon. All right, I'm going to end our recording now.
Okay.